justice are growing after a Metro Atlanta 25-year-old woman's death 10 days ago.
So it was all captured on video, leading people to share her story all across the internet.
A story about a young lady named Maya in Atlanta, Georgia.
People are posting, trying to make sense of what TikTok after TikTok.
You ran that girl over. You're going to jail for life. Say, this is Maya. Maya then got out the car, then walked to the front. Maya's twerking. They run her over.
Imagine being out with people you've called friends for years. You're laughing, you're drinking, you're dancing like nothing could possibly go wrong. Then, in just a few minutes, everything changes. What starts as fun ends in betrayal, and the ones smiling at you become the ones plotting your end. This is the story of Amiya Cunningham, a 25-year-old woman full of life, energy, and dreams. On April 26, 2025, she went out to celebrate a night that was supposed to be filled with joy. Her sister's prom, her aunt's birthday, and her own fresh start at beauty school. It should have been a night of milestones, but instead, it became the night her life was stolen. At 11:43 p.m., Amiya sent a chilling text. "I should have rode with you. The vibes are off." 1 minute later, she was seen dancing in the street. And just moments after that, she was struck down by an SUV, driven by someone she once called a friend. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't bad luck. This was betrayal wrapped in jealousy, executed in cold blood. The crime shocked Atlanta, set social media on fire, and left a family demanding justice. And tonight we're going to walk through every step of that night. From the friendships that turned toxic, to the warnings Amiya ignored, to the moment she was run over and left to die. Because the most chilling part of this story isn't just how Amiya died. It's how easily it could happen to anyone who ignores their instincts and trusts the wrong people. This is the true story of Amiya Cunningham. Hi guys, grab a cup of coffee and settle in for this thrilling true crime story. I'd love to know where you're watching this video from. Let me know in the comments. Don't hesitate to join the conversation too. Your thoughts and input are a vital part of this story. Welcome to 24/7 True Crime Chronicles, where all our stories are based on true crimes. Kindly support us by subscribing to this channel and turn on the notification bell icon so you won't miss any of our newest stories. Let's continue the story. Amiya was the oldest of 7 children. From a young age, she learned what it meant to take responsibility, to lead, and to care for others. Her siblings looked up to her not just because she was their big sister, but because she had a heart that guided them through difficult times. Her family described her as a beautiful soul, someone whose laughter could light up a room, whose loyalty never wavered, and whose love for others was undeniable. She wasn't the kind of person you forgot after meeting once. People remembered her energy, her warmth, and the way she made you feel seen. Her family said she was the life of the party, and anyone who knew her agreed. If Amiya was in the room, you felt her presence. She had that rare gift of making even strangers feel like friends. But the flip side of a bright spirit is often something darker: jealousy. People who shine the way Amiya did often attract envy, and the people who claimed to love her, the ones she thought she could trust, were the same ones who secretly couldn't stand her light. On April 26, 2025, Amiya had 3 reasons to celebrate. Her younger sister was heading to prom, a milestone Amiya was excited to see. Her aunt was celebrating a birthday, and Amiya wanted to be there for family. And perhaps most important, she herself had just been accepted into beauty school. This was a fresh start, a chance to invest in herself and build the future she deserved. For Amiya, life was finally opening up. It was supposed to be a night of joy, laughter, and celebration. Her guard was down. She was surrounded by people she thought were friends. She had no idea that this night of celebration was about to become the night her life ended. Because while Amiya was planning her future, others were planning her downfall. When tragedies like this happen, people often ask, who could do something like that, and why? To answer that, we need to look at the circle Amiya was with that night. The women she believed were her friends. The first was Alexandria Larkin, also known as Alex. She was 25 years old, just like Amiya. On the outside, Alexandria looked like someone who had her life together. She was a mother, a healthcare worker who had earned her phlebotomy license, and she carried herself as though she was caring and dependable. The second was Deja. Amiya's childhood friend and neighbor since middle school. For more than a decade, the two had grown up side by side. They shared sleepovers, secrets, and laughter. To outsiders, their bond looked unbreakable. But as anyone who has ever been betrayed knows, it is often the people closest to you who carry the sharpest knives. That night, Deja's loyalty was tested. Instead of standing with Amiya, she stood with Alexandria. What led to that choice? Was it fear, influence, or jealousy? We may never know. But what is clear is that Deja played a role in positioning Amiya for what was to come. The third was Mickey, another young woman who was connected through family ties. Unlike Alexandria, Mickey wasn't the loud leader of the group. She was quiet, almost silent. But sometimes silence can be the most dangerous weapon. 3 women, each with their own motives, their own insecurities, their own hidden darkness. Together, they formed a circle Amiya believed was safe, but in reality, it was a trap. And then there was T, a male friend who had genuine care for Amiya. He invited her to the party that night. He even begged her to ride with him instead of the others. He sensed something was wrong, but Amiya, loyal, trusting, and maybe too forgiving, chose to ride with the women she thought were her friends. That decision would prove fatal. The plan was simple: meet up at a house, pre-game together, and then head to King of Diamonds, a popular Atlanta nightclub. Like so many nights before, it started with music, laughter, and alcohol flowing. At first, the vibe seemed normal. Amiya was dancing, smiling, and bringing her usual energy to the room. She was the life of the party, the one everyone gravitated toward. But joy can quickly turn into tension when jealousy walks through the door. Witnesses later described a subtle but noticeable shift. At first, everyone was laughing and vibing. But as the night wore on, something about Amiya's light, her presence, her energy, started to rub others the wrong way. Maybe it was how easily she drew attention. Maybe it was the way people naturally cheered for her when she danced. Or maybe it was just simmering resentment, waiting for the right moment to boil over. The tension wasn't explosive. No shouting, no dramatic scene. Just a crack in the atmosphere, a sense that the smiles around Amiya weren't as genuine as they appeared. Alexandria in particular seemed restless. She wanted to leave. Suddenly, the pregame wasn't enough. She was impatient, agitated, and her frustration set the tone. What started as harmless fun had turned into a subtle competition, and Amiya was winning. That fact didn't sit well with everyone. Still, Amiya wasn't paying attention to the shift. She was focused on the music, on enjoying herself, on making memories. To her, it was just another night with friends. To them, it was the beginning of something much darker. By the time they decided to head to the club, the group had already fractured. The night was no longer about fun. It had become about control, about jealousy, and about hidden grudges that Amiya couldn't see. 3 cars would pull out of that driveway. Only 4 people would survive the night. When it was time to leave, the group split into 3 different cars. That small detail, that single decision, would decide life and death. In the first car, T, the friend who had invited Amiya, drove with another male friend. He genuinely cared about her safety. Earlier, he had begged Amiya to ride with him instead of the other women. He had a feeling, one he couldn't quite explain, that something wasn't right. In the second car, Alexandria drove alone in her black SUV. The same SUV that would later become the weapon. And in the third car, Amiya climbed in with Deja and Mickey. Childhood loyalty blinded her. She trusted Deja, the girl she had known for over a decade. Surely nothing could happen with a childhood friend by her side. Surely she was safe. But she was wrong. That choice was the fatal mistake. The 3 cars pulled out one after the other, T leading in his red truck, Alexandria following in the black SUV, and Amiya's silver car with Deja and Mickey close behind. They were supposed to be heading to King of Diamonds nightclub. But somewhere along the road, the night took a darker turn. As they drove, Amiya's instincts started whispering warnings. She sent T a text at 11:43 p.m., just minutes before her death. "I should have rode with you, the vibes are off." That single line says everything. Something in that car made her uneasy. Maybe it was the way Deja and Mickey had gone silent. Maybe it was the way they exchanged glances instead of words. Or maybe it was just her gut, screaming what her mind didn't want to admit. But instead of acting on that instinct, Amiya brushed it aside. She stayed in the car, trusting the wrong people. believing the danger was just in her imagination. As the cars continued down the highway, another twist happened. T, driving the lead car, missed his exit. He and his friend turned off, leaving Alexandria's SUV and Amiya's silver car together. Just like that, the protective presence of someone who truly cared was gone. Now only 2 cars remained, predator and prey. Amiya didn't know it, but she was outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and moments away from walking into a trap. The 2 cars rolled through the night, their headlights cutting across the Atlanta streets. The clock was ticking toward midnight. Amiya's uneasy text had already been sent, but the danger she felt was only beginning to unfold. They reached an intersection at Forest Parkway and Frontage Road. A red light stopped both cars, Alexandria in her black SUV in front, and Deja's silver car with Amiya and Mickey right behind. This was the moment everything changed. Cameras in the area later captured what happened, but the footage couldn't record the words spoken inside that silver car. We may never know exactly what was said, or how Deja and Mickey convinced Amiya to step out. Did they dare her? Did they tease her? Did they laugh and make it feel harmless? Or did Amiya, always the life of the party, decide on her own to bring some fun into the moment? Whatever the reason, Amiya opened the car door. She stepped into the street, her body illuminated by the glow of headlights, and then she began to dance. To anyone else, it might have looked playful. A young woman, carefree, moving to music only she could hear. But to Alexandria, sitting just feet away behind the wheel of her SUV, it was the moment she had been waiting for. Think about what must have been going through Amiya's mind. For a second, she might have felt like she was shaking off the bad energy. Maybe she thought that if she kept the vibe fun, everything would be okay. Maybe she looked at Alexandria, expecting to see her laugh or smile. Instead, she saw something else: coldness. Calculation. A face that no longer belonged to a friend. The engine revved, tires gripped the pavement. And in an instant, Amiya realized the truth. She hadn't been dancing for fun. She had been positioned, placed exactly where her killer wanted her. The trap was sprung. The light turned green. The SUV's engine roared. And in one violent motion, everything Amiya feared came true. Alexandria pressed the gas. The black SUV surged forward, metal and glass hurtling into flesh and bone. Amiya didn't stand a chance. Witnesses and cameras caught it all. One moment she was dancing, alive, moving with the energy that had always defined her. The next, she was beneath the vehicle, dragged, crushed, her body pinned under thousands of pounds of steel. But what makes this moment so haunting isn't just the brutality. It's the choice. Alexandria didn't hit the brakes. She didn't stop in shock or panic. She kept driving, cold, calculated, as if Amiya's life meant nothing. For 30, maybe 40 feet, Amiya's body was dragged along the asphalt before it finally rolled free. Broken, battered, lifeless. The SUV didn't pause. It didn't circle back. It kept going, disappearing into the night. And the people who were supposed to be her friends? They did nothing. Deja and Mickey, sitting in the silver car just behind, had every chance to scream, to run to her, to call for help. Instead, they stood by silently. They watched their childhood friend die in the street, and they said nothing. Minutes later, T, the one person who truly cared about Amiya's safety, arrived back at the intersection. He had missed the exit earlier and turned around, unaware of what had happened. At first, he thought he was pulling up to a routine accident. He started recording on his phone. But as he got closer, the truth hit him like a punch to the chest. The body lying on the asphalt wasn't a stranger. It was Amiya, his friend, the same woman who had texted him just moments earlier. "I should have rode with you. The vibes are off." Paramedics arrived and fought desperately to save her. They revived her once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Each time she slipped away again. Finally, at Grady Memorial Hospital, doctors pronounced her dead. Amiya Cunningham was gone, and the people responsible were already working on their lies. When first responders rushed to the scene, they were met with chaos. A young woman's body lay in the intersection. Flashing lights painted the night red and blue. Bystanders gathered, whispering in shock. But among the crowd stood 2 people who weren't shocked at all. Deja and Mickey. They had been in the car with Amiya. They had seen everything. They knew exactly who was behind the wheel of the SUV. They knew it wasn't some stranger. It wasn't a hit and run by a random driver. It was their friend, Alexandria. And yet, when police questioned them, their answers were chillingly cold. They claimed they didn't know Amiya, pretended she was just some girl who had been dancing in the street, said they had no idea who hit her. Think about that for a moment. 12 years of friendship, gone in an instant. Childhood memories, secrets, laughter, all erased with a lie. Deja looked an officer in the eye and denied even knowing the woman she once called a sister. Mickey nodded along, silent but complicit. Meanwhile, Alexandria, the driver, didn't stop. She fled the scene. Hours later, she returned with her husband, playing the part of a concerned citizen. She blended into the crowd, pretending to mourn, pretending to ask questions like everyone else. The audacity was staggering. At first, police seemed to believe the lies. Their initial statement suggested Amiya had been just another pedestrian struck in a tragic accident. No foul play, no crime. Case closed. But there was one thing the group didn't account for. Cameras. Surveillance footage from the intersection captured the entire incident. The video left no room for doubt. You could see Amiya dancing in front of the SUV. You could see the car lurch forward. You could see her disappear beneath it. You could see the vehicle drive away, dragging her body, never stopping. When that footage leaked online, the internet erupted. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Everywhere you looked, people were sharing the video, demanding answers. Millions of voices began calling it what it really was: murder. Not an accident, not bad luck, murder. And once the internet grabbed hold of the truth, there was no going back. Amiya's family, led by her aunt Chandra, refused to stay silent. They organized vigils, they spoke out publicly. They made it clear that Amiya's death would not be swept under the rug. The police may have been slow to act, but the court of public opinion was not. The cover-up was crumbling. And Alexandria, Deja, and Mickey were running out of places to hide. For weeks, the story of Amiya Cunningham spread across social media like wildfire. Strangers who had never met her wore her favorite color, green, at vigils. TikTok creators dissected every frame of the surveillance footage. Hashtags like #Justice for Amiya trended across platforms. The pressure on law enforcement grew unbearable. What had first been written off as a tragic accident was now undeniable. Amiya had been deliberately run down. Finally, on May 17, 2025, 3 weeks after Amiya's death, the Forest Park Police Department made an arrest. Alexandria Larkin, the woman behind the wheel of the SUV, was taken into custody. She was charged with first-degree vehicular homicide and leaving the scene of an accident. The family wept. The community cheered. But for many, it was bittersweet. Because while Alexandria was behind bars, Deja and Mickey were still walking free. Think about that. Two women who had positioned Amiya, who had stood by while she was killed, who had lied to police and even attended her funeral pretending to grieve, were not charged. To this day, they have not faced accountability. In court, Alexandria's lawyers begged for bond. They painted her as a mother, a woman who deserved compassion because she had a child waiting at home. But the judge didn't buy it. Bond was denied. Alexandria would remain in jail until trial. Still, questions lingered. Why was she the only one charged? Why did Deja and Mickey escape consequences? And why did it take the internet going viral before law enforcement did what was obvious from the very beginning? Write your comment below. For Amiya's family, the fight was far from over. Her aunt Chandra stood before crowds and vowed that Amiya's death would not be in vain. She promised justice, not just for Amiya, but for every young black woman whose story had been ignored, dismissed, or buried. And for the online community, this case became a rallying cry. People compared it to the tragic story of Shanquella Robinson, another young woman betrayed by people she called friends, another case where the truth only came out because the internet refused to stay silent. But the pain for Amiya's family was personal. They weren't fighting for hashtags. They were fighting for their daughter, their sister, their niece. They were fighting to make sure the world never forgot her name. Amiya Cunningham. Amiya's story teaches us several hard truths. First, trust is precious. It's not enough to call someone a friend because you've shared memories or laughter. True friends protect, uplift, and never knowingly put you in harm's way. Jealousy, envy, and hidden resentment can hide behind smiles, and the people who seem closest can sometimes be the ones who hurt us the most. Second, instincts matter. That text Amiya sent, "I should have rode with you." The vibes are off. Was her intuition speaking? And intuition is powerful. It's our mind and heart recognizing danger before our eyes can even see it. Ignoring it can have devastating consequences. Third, the internet can be both a weapon and a lifeline. When Alexandria, Deja, and Mickey tried to hide the truth, social media exposed the lies. People demanded justice, amplified Amiya's story, and refused to let her death be dismissed. In today's world, public accountability can sometimes shine a light where official channels fail. Finally, Amiya's story reminds us of the fragility of life. Joy, celebration, and love can be interrupted in a heartbeat. And in those moments, the people we choose to surround ourselves with matter more than we realize. Protect yourself, listen to your instincts, and never take loyalty for granted. As we close this chapter, remember Amiya Cunningham, not just for how she died, but for how she lived. Full of light, full of love, full of dreams. Let her story serve as a warning, a lesson, and a call to cherish the people who truly care, while being cautious of those who smile while hiding harm. Because life is precious. Trust wisely, and never ignore the voice inside you telling you that something's not right. If this story gripped you, make sure you subscribe to 24/7 True Crime Chronicles, where we uncover the darkest betrayals, the hidden motives, and the chilling truths behind real cases. Every week, we bring you stories that don't just inform, but make you think twice about trust, loyalty, and the choices we make. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss the next case. Join our growing community of true crime listeners who believe every story deserves to be told and every victim deserves to be remembered. Because here, it's not just about crime. It's about justice, lessons, and truth.